In all the hullabaloo of new phones coming out, you've probably missed out on the OnePlus Nord CE5, but I think it deserves your attention, especially so close to Christmas, for a couple of key things. It has a massive battery, clean OxygenOS, and a camera that actually surprises you because it performs so well, all for under £300. So let us tell you why this Nord CE5 deserves a lot more attention. So the Nord CE5 actually launched at the exact same time as the Nord 5, possibly one of our most favorite mid-range phones for a whole host of reasons. So be sure to watch that review to find out more about that. And it shares a lot of the same design profiles, especially on the rear when it comes to that pill-shaped cutout for the camera housing. But there are some small differences, mainly in that the Nord 5 will get the Plus AI key that the Nord CE5 does not get. And then otherwise, there's almost no real discernible difference between either of them. The Nord CE5, though, up front, does get a super punchy and vibrant 6.77-inch AMOLED display at 120Hz with 1430 nits of peak brightness. The Nord 5, on the other hand, gets a 6.83-inch AMOLED display at 144Hz and 1800 nits of peak brightness. Both play back content beautifully. Watching anything on either phone looks really punchy, bright, vibrant. Screen to body ratio wise, very, very good. Although the Nord CE5 does have a slightly larger chin at the bottom than the Nord 5, but that is to be expected as it is the cheaper, younger brother. And then the CE5, when it comes to things like weight, is just over, well, just less than 200 grams, 199 grams to be exact. But in terms of weight, fit, feel, and finish, feels very much like a premium phone that's punching above its weight when you factor in that sub £300 cost. The Nord CE5 shares one thing with the Nord 5, and that's its processor. It is actually a Dimensity 8350 Apex edition, essentially a tuned version of the Dimensity 8350, and is optimized for things like gaming. But first, let's touch on OS. OxygenOS runs on here very, very well. You get a near flagship level experience that you'd get on a OnePlus 13 on this sub £300 phone. And in terms of longevity, you do get 4 years of OS updates and 6 years worth of security updates, Android 15 out of box, Android OxygenOS 15 out of box as well. So if you're opening and closing apps, very smooth transitions are excellent. You even get access to OnePlus's excellent open canvas that allows you to multitask, be able to condense and reframe all those multiple windows. So super, super good. And it runs smoothly. One of the highest things, bits of praise, I could give OnePlus is there is this distinct lack of bloatware on the CE5 and all their phones when it comes to OxygenOS, which is a massive win. And then you still get some AI tools via the AI toolbox as well. So here you can do things like summarize an article, read an article out loud, copy and paste, drag into notes, all that stuff, all that great stuff that's on the flagship phones is still here and works very, very well. The 8350 Apex edition is actually geared primarily towards things like gaming, and it does a really, really good job. If you chuck it in just the balanced mode at its base, you get a really nice balanced frame rate. You actually are able to run Call of Duty Mobile on very high graphics and max FPS with 60 frames per second. If you check in Pro Gamer mode, that actually boosts the frame rates, the graphics, and the FPS, and you get an even more immersive experience. And it runs very well. There's no issues with loading like checkerboarding or drop frame rates, any jitters, anything like that doesn't exist. Also, one kicker you have on this particular phone as well is the ability to use bypass charging. Now, quick tech summary, essentially what that means is it will actually maintain your battery's health whilst you're gaming rather than using your battery and charging at the same time. So what that also means is you will get a pretty cool CPU and phone for no matter how long you're gaming, which is sick. And it does a really, really good job. Now, about that experience when it comes to gaming, the sound output of the Nord CE5, let's check that out. One of the key differentials of the CE5 versus the Nord 5 is it has a single mono speaker at the bottom. So your gaming experience, if you're playing out loud, won't sound as cinematic as it could. It actually sounds slightly flat and is one of the downsides of that mono speaker. When it comes to the CPU though, on the 8350 Apex edition, under 3D Mark's Lifestyle Extreme test, you do suffer from very, very heavy throttling. The stability here is around 33%, which is insanely high, versus what we probably say a good example is around the 90% mark, which is a massive shame. Battery usage is again very high, 15% on that 20 life cycles, and temperature jumps again very high, 33 to 46 degrees. So those measures are an extreme example of what can happen if you were to really hammer this phone in terms of pushing at that CPU and GPU. Real world terms, you're probably not ever going to be able to get to that point. When you do want to game on things like Call of Duty Mobile or CarX Street, and you are gaming, you're actually not going to get any of those issues like the dropped frame rates or the very hot rear panel when you're holding the phone. We never experienced that at all in all the games we did on both of those mentioned games, which does say more so for the extreme test example. You can game on here for a very long time. You can spend multiple hours gaming, streaming, watching content, reading articles, whatever you want to do, customization, doom scrolling for a lot of time, and still have over 40% battery left over at the end of the day, which is awesome because the battery is just so big at 5200 milliamp hours. And if you were to recharge it, it's 80 watts of wired charging. There is no wireless charging here, and there also is no plug in the box. If you want to max out the speeds, you will have to pay a bit more. Let's quickly break down the rear performance cameras on the back of this phone, and they come in two sensors. You get a 50 megapixel Sony LYT600 with OIS, and the other 8 megapixel ultra wide is an OmniVision sensor. Now that main sensor, which is 50 megapixels, captures decent quality images with good level of detail and clarity, even if few pixels peep. If you were to use digital zoom, you do see its limitations as well, and the quality does drop significantly. The colors and contrasts are nice and well balanced, are not overly saturated, which is awesome. And then the nighttime images are solid overall, offering good amount of detail, much like the daytime photos, which is a huge win here. And again, you're not getting that blowout of darker areas. It does a really good job of maintaining the shadows and depth when you're taking photos. The ultra wide, as you'd expect with a low resolution sensor, 8 megapixels, is usable at best, but we wouldn't really rely on it too much because it's not great. Rear video using that main sensor is 4K 60 is what it tops out at, and it showcases a really nice balance of colors and contrast with a good level of detail, and there is little to no noise here as well. So for the price point in terms of the camera output, if you stick to the video and the rear main lens, you're going to get a really good camera experience. So the OnePlus Nord CE5 is actually a very easy phone to recommend. Even with that throttling, that's an extreme example, because the only real downsides I think I would face on the day-to-day basis would be twofold. No wireless charging, no plug-in box, and of course that ultra-wide sensor not being as detailed as it should be. For every other component, it's excellent. You get really great punchy detailed display with excellent outdoor visibility and video output, legit multi-day battery, rapid charging, really good gaming performance, and a strong main camera with good photo and video output, as that makes the CE5 a legit no-brainer at all. Now, if you wanted something beyond this that would be better, it'd be the Nord 5 that we would recommend above this, because that sort of takes a lot of this, enhances it even more, and doesn't suffer as much with the thermal throttling. But let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on the Nord CE5. Is this the one to get at the sub £300 price range? If it isn't, comment below and let us know what you think is. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe whilst you're there, and until the next one, as always, we out.